Hello, I'm Nuala McGovern. You're watching The Context on BBC News. President Macron fires up his campaign for re-election after acknowledging he didn't do enough in the first round. Marine Le Pen's far-right party is in a buoyant mood after last night's results, despite trailing the president by 4 points. The mayor of Mariupol says the fight for his city is not over, denying reports the Russians are close to victory there. Republican Congresswoman Liz Cheney takes on a candidate backed by Donald Trump as she fights for her political future. We'll look at how the party is divided. Tonight, with The Context from Paris, Georgina Wright, she's a director at the think tank, the Montaigne Institute, and from Florida, Mike Shields, a former chief of staff at the Republican National Committee. Welcome to the programme. Well, we begin in France, where Emmanuel Macron has won the first round of the French election, but he still faces a tough battle to win a second term as president. Mr. Macron secured 27.6% of the vote, while the far-right Marine Le Pen secured 23%. Far-left candidate Jean-Luc Mélenchon got nearly 22% of the votes. Well, combined, they commanded close to 3/4 of the vote. But when voters return to the polls in 2 weeks' time for the second round, they'll be faced with the same choice they had in 2017, Emmanuel Macron or Marine Le Pen. In fact, le duel is what some of the papers were calling it. Though this time the race could be much tighter. Let's take a look at the latest polling. Mr. Macron leading his challenger by just 2 points, 51 to 49. So the focus for both will now be on convincing those who voted for other candidates to pick them on their ballot paper this time round. Right, let's turn to Ukraine now. And as Russia's military focus turns from the capital Kyiv, Ukrainians are bracing themselves for a renewed assault on the east of the country. Now, one big military target is to the south, at the port city of Mariupol, which has been under siege since the last week of February. Tens of thousands of people may have been killed there over the past 2 weeks. That's according to Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky. Now, let's take a look at this. This is a column of Russian military vehicles. They've been filmed heading in the direction of Mariupol. President Zelensky said he fears the Russians will continue to attack as they want to make an example of the city. Our correspondent Anna Foster is in Kyiv, and she's been to the suburbs of Bucha and Irpin, which were occupied until last week by the Russian military. Well, now we're going to turn to something very, very different, a much lighter topic, but many of you reading about it today. How far would you go to avoid the inconvenience of forgetting your bank card? Maybe when you're out shopping or grabbing a bite to eat. Well, let's take a look at Patrick Powman. He has had a microchip implanted in his left hand, which means all he needs to do is wave his hand at the card reader. Patrick, who's from the Netherlands, has had that chip since 2019. It was injected in a process, he says, that felt like somebody pinching your skin. Payment chips, they've been around for 2 decades or more, but it was only last year that a Polish firm, Walletmore, became the first to offer them commercially. Let us turn to this. I don't know, Georgina, you know, we've all kind of been searching for our card, or we kind of have to think of things before we leave the house. Is this something that you would be interested in getting? It's like a little grain of rice, apparently, in your hand. But there was, in a 2021 survey of more than 4,000 people across the UK and the European Union, found 51% would consider it. So I'm not alone. I'm just talking about considering it. Georgina, Mike, stay with us. Of course, we have more conversations to come right here on The Context on BBC News. Hello, I'm Nuala McGovern. You're watching The Context on BBC News. Ukraine's President Zelensky warns of big battles to come against Russian forces in the east of the country. The mayor of Mariupol in the south says the fight for his city is not over, denying reports the Russians are close to victory there. Joe Biden cracks down on untraceable ghost guns, what the president called criminals' weapon of choice. And what's so special about this Dallas high school? Well, stay tuned to find out. Now, tonight, with The Context from Paris, Georgina Wright. She's a director at the think tank, the Montaigne Institute. And from Florida, Mike Shields, a former chief of staff at the Republican National Committee. Well, Welcome back to the programme. Well, US President Joe Biden is using the power of the presidency to try to crack down on untraceable guns. At the White House today, he announced new rules affecting so-called ghost guns. So these are weapons that can be made at home using kits, and they're incredibly hard to track down. Between 2016 and last year, officials received 45,000 reports of privately made firearms recovered by US law enforcement personnel. Now, that includes 692 from homicides or attempted homicides. Of those, a paltry 1% were able to be traced because the guns did not have serial numbers. Well, the measures announced today would require serial numbers on some components of those guns, and would-be buyers would need to clear a background check. Mr. Biden highlighted how easy it is for one to get their hands on these weapons. Now, staying with US politics, want to look ahead, as I mentioned, crucial midterm elections at the end of the year. Primary season, it is underway in the States. It's where voters get to pick their party's candidate, which has the side effect of sometimes exposing divisions within a party. Now, one of the most eye-catching battles at the moment is in Wyoming. It's Liz Cheney. She's fighting to keep her role representing her state in Congress. She was, until recently, you might remember, one of the most senior Republicans in the party. But after the January 6th riots on Capitol Hill, she made it clear she would work to prosecute those responsible for the attacks, even working with Democrats to do so. Now, in February, Ms. Cheney was censured by the RNC in a statement that defended January 6th as legitimate political discourse. Remember that term? Well, she responded by saying that she did not recognise those in my party who have abandoned the Constitution to embrace Donald Trump. Well, it's now being reported that Liz Cheney has raised a record $10 million to fight her primary campaign against Harriet Hageman. Now, the pair of very different set of backers. Let's take a look. Donald Trump, Kevin McCarthy, Peter Thiel, and dozens of House Republicans who kicked Cheney out of the House GOP leadership. They're backing Hageman. You might have figured that one out. Meanwhile, George W. Bush, Mitch McConnell, Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan are all backing Liz Cheney. But before that, let's talk a little bit of sport. Scottie Scheffler sank his 3-foot putt to claim a win at the Masters on Sunday. Were you watching? He joined this elite club, so yes, this group of green-jacketed golf champions that are the envy of the pros and weekend players alike. But he's also the latest alumnus of Highland Park High School in Dallas, Texas, to reach the pinnacle of their sporting professions. Well, Scheffler joined Super Bowl winning quarterback Matthew Stafford, World Series champion Clayton Kershaw. This trifecta of triumph from that high school. All three attended Highland Park. All three have done their school proud. I have to leave it there, Johnny. Thank you so much for joining us and celebrating with us. I also want to thank Anthony, Georgina and Mike. And thanks to you for watching The Context. See you tomorrow.
Hello. A major late-season winter storm is going to be sweeping across North America.